Welcome to the Realtor Diaries podcast. We are talking about getting sued.
Oh yeah.
I'm Kim Jacoby with the Jacoby team of Century 21, and with me as always,
Elijah McGowan, also the Jacoby team of Century 21. We are your go-to Northern California realtors.
And with us today is our branch manager of our office, Century 21 in Chico. This is Doug Love.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us today.
You bet.
Normally, when we start out our podcasts, it's just Elijah and I.
Yes.
And we share stories about the topic.
Okay.
But today's topic of getting sued, I've never been sued.
Lucky.
Hope to never be sued.
Yes, it's a good thing.
Sorry, audio listeners. We were knocking on wood in case you were wondering what that pounding was. Elijah's never been sued, but as a manager of the office, for how long now have you been managing the Chico office?
I've been managing since 95.
Wow.
So
That's
30
a long
years
time.
this year.
10 years of selling and whatever that span is after 95 until now, managing.
Wow.
Yeah, so in 30 years, you're going to probably have helped some agents through some
We've seen some stuff.
potential lawsuits.
Yes.
Or lawsuits. So yeah,
Yes.
that's why we asked you to be our guest today, because
Okay,
you
cool.
probably have the most experience of anyone we know
Yeah.
on this topic.
And I've attended many a class by you, Doug.
Yeah.
And I've heard like snippets of stories
Yes.
and bits of stories
Yeah.
because they always have a lesson
Yeah.
within them.
Right. Well, okay, so my Wednesday at 1 class,
Yeah.
it's contracts and legal.
Exactly.
Those are the 2 points. And so the legal and contracts go together because the contract is a legal document.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, real estate is a litigious business. I mean, I heard when I first started that people sue each other over real estate more than anything in California except for divorce.
Yeah, I
Dang.
believe
And
it.
even
And I
divorce.
do believe that is still true. And, like you said, counseling people in potential lawsuits, that's mainly it.
Right.
Okay.
People who are upset and after the close of an escrow, a buyer in a house finds something or they think they were mistreated along the way somehow. Having to resurrect all of our documentation and apply it to what the laws are and counsel with people before a lawsuit ever takes place.
Okay, so that's like your main, well, I assume that's the main goal, is to kill it
Yeah,
before
to
it's
avoid the
started.
lawsuit.
Yeah, and most of the skirmishes do not wind up in a courtroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our contracts have the portion in them where people either agree or not agree to either mediate or arbitrate any dispute that they may have at any time. And so mediation is an informal get together to try and solve something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there can be a formal mediation where you hire a mediator and people present evidence like they would in a court or an arbitration. But we do a lot of informal mediating where we're getting together and trying to work out an issue before it has to become something official.
Okay.
Well, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear some stories, and of course we're going to leave out names and details that would sort of protect
Don't incriminate.
but we would love to hear a juicy story if you got one.
Oh, okay. So when you said it was going to be stories, there's one that always leaps into my mind first,
That's what we like to hear.
which was the most torturous event
Oh,
in my management career.
Really?
Oh, boy.
Yes.
We're sorry to dredge up these.
That's okay because it's valuable and we like everybody to understand how serious this stuff is without it freezing them because we can guide and our contracts are great with all the components needed to get an agreement together where people understand everything so there isn't a dispute later.
Yeah.
So in my career, going all the way back to the beginning of formal disclosure in California.
Okay.
This is where it all begins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started in real estate, the purchase agreement was a one-page purchase agreement with a piece of carbon paper and another one on the bottom. So press hard.
Yeah.
The thing is, I like the carbon paper.
Yeah.
of anything.
That
to
was
bring
that was our copy machine. That was our fax machine. That was our electronic device of the time.
Yes.
Press hard. So when I started in '85 selling.
Oh yeah, 10 years of
In
selling.
'84, the landmark case began that created the obligation for a seller to disclose in writing all of these items about a piece of property, physically, and anything they know. Before that, the prevailing attitude of real estate law was caveat emptor. We talked about it the other day.
Okay.
Caveat emptor means buyer beware.
Yeah.
And so, hey, buyer, there it is. You go check it out. If you want it, buy it.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you anything about anything I ever did to it
Really?
or what I know. Yes.
That's so foreign now.
Well, and it's so criminal now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
listing agents at the time, they said, I can't disclose anything negative about my seller.
Oh.
So I got to stay back here and just let it fly. So the landmark case began when a lady bought a house in Mount Diablo, California,
Oh, wow.
in 1976. She paid the astronomical price of that home of $175,000. Her name was Easton. It's the Easton versus Strasburger case.
We learned that in the real estate
Yes,
class.
we do.
Oh,
For
yeah.
our
Easton
license.
versus Strasburger is common language among attorneys and such.
Yes.
But anyway, so Strasburgers, their home was on a hillside, and they did a whole lot of cut and fill, build on top of fill. The agent who worked with them knew they were doing all these things in preparation for sale, and some things had begun to slip, which they repaired.
Oh.
And they
okay.
sold the house to Easton.
Mm-hmm.
And Easton began to have problems with slippage and all kinds of horrible things. So it went to court, and the argument that came up was people should have to disclose what they know.
Yeah.
And
Especially material things like that.
yes.
Like your house is slipping off of a
Yeah.
hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or it was and we fixed it.
Yeah.
Yes, they might again.
You know.
right.
Yeah.
And realtors, if you know, you should have to say something, material knowledge, which is so common now. It seems absurd that
Well, we have
it
the
was
form, the
We have the
agent.
form.
We call it the AVID in the realtor world, but
yeah.
agent visual inspection disclosure. But that also is not just by inspection; it's by what we were told.
Yes.
Yes.
Material knowledge plus what we see.
Everything you know.
And what we smell and what we hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can observe it,
Yeah.
it should be in there.
Well, so Easton won the case, and it became a new dynamic that sellers needed to disclose, and so did agents. It took until 1984 when 1984, the case was settled. In 86 came the new disclosure statement, which was created by our state legislature, that has all the specific questions a seller must answer in writing about the property, the nature of the property, the condition of the property. It goes through all the components of a piece of property. And that form is designed by legislature. It has to have that look everywhere it goes in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anytime there's a change in it, it's a legal maneuver to make that change in that form.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that came along in at that time, 86. So I had been in business for a year.
Yep.
When it
That's a
came
big
along,
change.
the old timers were so mad.
Oh, I bet.
What are we doing? We're the police all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And we have to grill the sellers about their piece of property? What's going on here? Well, it's developed to where now we understand it's commonplace and it's normal and natural. But when we first did it, we used to sit and fill the disclosure statement out for the seller.
Oh.
We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Now it's people, the seller's disclosing, don't touch it.
Yes.
And
Like, let
make
them
sure
do
they
it.
complete it. And then later, several years later, came the AVID, the Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure, and the obligation for the agent to do a visual inspection of the house, record anything that they see. Could be a red flag, or detrimental to the value of the property in any way, and put it all down, plus anything they know.
Yeah. The worst is when a chatty neighbor comes by
Yep.
and starts disclosing to the listing agent all this horrible stuff. And
Yes.
it's like, blah, blah, don't tell me.
Well,
I have to disclose it.
Yeah,
well,
as soon
here's
as you know.
that component of disclosure law is agents are not obligated to disclose hearsay. So if it's idle talk, should we not disclose it? And there is where the grayest area exists. Because we should disclose. Let's say somebody said, did you hear that everybody hates the neighbor up the street and there's been people suing each other and the cops come all the time?
Yeah.
We should probably advise our client to investigate police records, maybe even talk to neighbors. But if it's not true and we do disclose something like that, we've disparaged the neighbor and we've devalued our client's house.
Right.
So along those lines, there's always this dilemma about what should be disclosed that's material knowledge.
I'm talking about like the neighbor comes over and goes, oh yeah, our neighborhood gets burgled like once a month.
Yes.
Yep.
That's more than hearsay.
It could be.
Yeah.
Unless they're full of it.
Well.
We don't know, but there are police records.
Yeah.
And all the things our buyers should do to satisfy themselves about a piece of property includes that.
Yep.
There's the Megan's Law website
Yep.
about sexual offenders in any given area. There's police records, and there are neighbors. It's perfectly fine to go talk to a neighbor about the neighborhood.
Buyer.
Yeah, the buyer.
Yes.
Yes, the buyer. So anyway,
That was a long intro to this.
I know. So that's the very beginning of disclosure and why we're here. So I'll give you my worst condition case that I was telling you about. So we sold our office a piece of property in the Avenues.
Yep.
It had a little cottage in the back, and the cottage was rented out. So we see that frequently around here.
Yeah. College town.
Yeah. And it's even encouraged, more so now than ever, it's encouraged.
Absolutely.
ADUs and such. But in any case, the agents had in the agreement, the buyer's agent put in the agreement that the seller will provide a copy of the permit for the back unit. In the disclosure statement, it asks the question, is there anything on the property built not to code or without necessary permit?
Yes.
The seller said no. So, in other words,
question. So they said there wasn't anything that was not permitted.
exactly. Double negative.
Okay. Yeah.
Double
Double
negative.
negative.
Yeah. So yeah. In other words, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
Yeah. If there was a permit necessary, I got a permit.
There you go. There you go.
He said he did. The seller did to our listing agent. Well, they ran through their escrow and all the components of usual inspections and negotiations for repairs, and there's some things about the loan that were hard, so things got delayed and sticky, which unfortunately is kind of normal.
Yep.
But anyway, they got to the right near the end, and buyer's agent goes, "Where's the copy of that permit you were supposed to
Because
get?"
they asked for it.
Yes. Listing agent runs down to the city of Chico. Asked the city of Chico to give them a copy of the permit,
Yeah.
which they did.
Okay. Cool.
They took the copy of the permit, they gave it to the buyer's agent here, who faxed it to their client who was in the Bay Area, who was buying the house.
Okay.
Buyers living in the Bay Area, they're coming to Chico. They're actually putting their daughter in the property.
Yeah. Pretty common. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I get a visit from an attorney who says, "Hey, I'm here representing so-and-so, the buyer of the property that your office represented." We did it, both of our agents,
And
two
now-
separate agents
Is
in
this
our office.
after the close of
This
escrow?
is
now?
like a year later.
Oh.
Really? Okay.
And I go, "Really? Okay, well, let's pull the files."
Take
Here's
a
the
look
file.
at what's happening.
So they had received an order from the city of Chico to vacate the back unit because it was illegal.
Oh.
So
That's fishy.
that's fishy. So I go, okay, well, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, the daughter had moved into the back unit and was renting the main house. She was going to college.
Oh yeah.
So the daughter partied.
Oh.
Neighbor complained. Said, "Hey, that thing's been there illegally a long time anyway." So we pulled the file. We pulled the copy of the permit that had been sent to the buyer.
Yeah.
That copy, it said, it's a permit studio, not for habitable use.
Oh no.
But guess what? On the copy that we had,
Uh-huh.
because it was a copy from the city,
Yeah.
and it got faxed, where it had a fold mark in the piece of paper, it became a black smudge that covered not for habitable use.
Oh my God.
What?
So, as far as what we all did together,
Yeah.
it looked like we did it right.
Yeah.
Did the seller know that they had a limited permit when they got that permit? Should they have?
They should have known.
They should have
You would-
understood that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did they know that they had built an artist studio,
Right.
not for habitable use, and then rented it out? When it comes to law, what's reasonable for people to remember and that sort of thing? Yeah, someone should have remembered.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the conclusion. But in any case, it turns into the most longest drawn out situation. And this is the one
Oh.
where I had to attend a deposition. And behind my desk on my stack of things, there's a file about that thick, which is a copy of my
that
deposition
Oh my
that
God.
the stenographer took
Yeah.
when you're doing the deposition.
Wow.
And the deposition is practice. It's the attorneys practicing
Wow.
Oh,
on
like
how
being
to,
on the stand.
we got to understand
Yeah.
how we're going to nail this person.
Yeah.
And there were infuriating things they asked. It was,
Oh my God.
and it took forever. And we had the city of Chico offering to build a breezeway between the house and the unit, and then they would permit it.
The city
And yes,
offered to do that?
offered to do that.
It was like, let's just
Let you
fix
guys,
it.
let's connect them and we'll permit the
They
thing.
were so
And the buyer
tired of
went,
dealing with
no. And the buyer was mad about it.
Oh.
And they
Really?
kept sending attorneys up in the Bay Area. Our client had an attorney here. We had our errors and omissions attorney.
Yes.
So here's where the real estate side comes in for us. Whenever something like this happens, we do have good errors and omissions insurance.
Yep.
So if there's a dispute, we have an attorney that will come in and represent us. Our attorney is not for our clients.
Yes.
They're for us. And we pay a deductible. In any case, this drawn out thing took a long time. And the buyer, who was so angry about it all, spent a lot of attorney money.
Oh, I bet.
And then there was a settlement. So the seller settled with something. Our E&O settled something. Our E&O is insurance. They settle things by writing checks.
Yeah. That's what they do.
That's what they tell us.
Yes.
We're coming up there with a checkbook.
Yeah.
So even if you're right, don't get mad at me
Yeah.
if we settle
Right.
it and I spend money.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Which is pretty common, it happens that way. But in any case, it was a long, drawn-out, terrible thing. And it did get settled, but it cost everybody a lot of time and money. And then later, that buyer tore the thing out. And
What?
Yes, but they built a wing on the house.
Oh, okay.
So
Anyway, like they
it
just
seems absurd, the whole thing, but it just, the time of it and the stress that everybody went under
Gosh.
was long and crazy. And we've had
Yeah.
a lot more things like that reach a certain point. We've been to small claims court.
Yeah.
We've
Yep.
been in mediations. We've been in arbitrations. And it does happen for the most part. We get through everything okay. And we have our agents understanding contract and law.
Yeah.
We have all of our disclosures that are full of the statement, we are not attorneys.
Yeah.
We are not accountants.
repeatedly.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
We advise you, please talk to your attorney and please talk to your accountant. So we really do encourage that. But we need to know enough law
Yeah.
to be able to guide people the right way and where those pieces of law appear in our contracts.
Right.
So that's the tough part that, Gov Hutchinson, who is the head legal counsel of the California Association of Realtors. legal
That you
team-
have on speed dial.
You bet.
Yeah.
I do. He's an old friend. And he's been at it a long time. But we have a bank of attorneys, real estate attorneys from the California Association of Realtors that we pay for with our dues. And we can consult anytime we want.
Yep.
Yep. The legal hotline.
Legal hotline. And what Gov says is, hey, realtors, sorry, but you guys are hideously underpaid attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
Not-
you go.
Not it's being facetious because we are no way attorneys, but we do need to know a lot of law.
Yes. very specific to our field.
Yes, it is. It's everything.
Yeah, it's so common that buyers just automatically assume that sellers are hiding something, they should have known something,
Yeah.
you know.
But luckily we haven't seen that in the courtroom, or I haven't even had to mediate or anything.
So Emmett had to go to
Yes, he
court.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had, and it was over an oven. Was it small claims? Was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, over an oven. The buyers, Emmett was representing the seller.
Yep.
And the buyers took the seller to small claims, saying the seller should have known that the oven wasn't working or something like that. And then the judge goes to the buyers, she goes, "Did you guys get a home warranty?" And they go, "No." And she's like, "Case dismissed."
Boom. Yes.
Yeah.
You were advised the home warranty would have covered it.
Yeah.
And so leading up to that, I was there with Emmett throughout all that
Yeah.
thing.
He was so stressed out.
Yeah.
He
I
was
can only
so
imagine.
stressed out. And, you know, we could see which side was the unreasonable side here.
Yeah.
In this case, it was the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little elderly man whose wife had died,
Yeah.
Yep.
selling their house. And if ever there was somebody being victimized by oppression, it was horrible.
Yeah.
But you know what we did, which we have done with other small claims court issues, because that is where most skirmishes go.
Yep.
Small claims is affordable. It's, I think, $30 to $100 to set one up,
Oh,
wow.
yes.
depending
yes.
on the amount of the claim, and the maximum claim is $12,500.
Yeah, I think they changed
I was
it
just
Up
saying.
to
recently.
$12,500. It used to be $5, then it was $75, then it was
Yeah,
$10, now it's
exactly.
$12,500.
Wow.
So most disputes are within that range, or people get it there because it's the people's court.
Yeah.
Yes.
You go in, you cannot have an attorney represent you in small claims court.
Right.
There's just a small claims judge. And so Emmett went in with a completed, organized package.
Yep.
It was all dialed in. Here's the contract, here's the disclosures, here's the inspections, here's what the man did and spent, and handed it to the court.
Yeah.
So the judge had an easily opened and understood total book on what the sale was
They
all
knew
about.
exactly what
So
it was
when they
for.
got to that point of, did you get a home warranty? They can see it's advised.
Yeah.
It's part of the contract. Well, no, case dismissed. That's all they needed. Thank you, Judge.
Yes.
Because they vary in how they approach with things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
generally, they get it. And we had another one like that with down in Gridley.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
similar.
where a man was just a
Was it an
buyer.
oven or
It was a roof
a roof?
and other things. And he was
Yeah.
claiming mold and all these other things. And it went on for a long time and kept sending roofers over there to take a look at what the problem was. And they'd come back and say, no, I mean, he's done something, yeah. But when the house was sold, it was okay. Well, he wound up calling in a small claims court. And once again, we put together a good binder and got it to the court. So this judge, it was just like that. And the sellers were, once again, elderly people. And the buyer, he had all these stacks of paper in front of him. And he was starting to go out and the judge goes, okay, I understand. I've got the file here. I think that's probably what you're going through there. And so you're claiming the roof. So she goes, okay, I'm looking at this roof report. It says the roof is not guaranteed, but estimated to last 2 to 4 years with the following repairs. Now I'm seeing that those repairs that were recommended by the roofer were done and paid for by the seller, and you signed that.
Yeah.
Is that your signature? Well, yeah. And she goes, that's it.
Yeah.
Like you did everything you
Yeah,
could.
did you understand what it said? And it was just like that. It was over so fast.
Yeah.
A lot of prep to get there and a lot of stress to get there.
Yeah.
But I think it helps that, I mean, you are here to keep us so organized. It's like, hey, this came up. You're like, okay, here's how you set everything up.
Yes.
Like, make everything look really good.
Yeah,
and hand it over.
Right. And
Yeah.
before that, knowing the contract.
Yes, exactly.
So that's what we
there's
teach.
There's a lot of pre-work that goes into not
A
getting
lot of
sued.
teaching on
Yeah.
it. And, you know, if you're going to do real estate, you want to have a legal eagle eye.
Yeah, you gotta
And-
know what all the forms say and
Yes.
what they mean.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
what the repercussions are for
It-
your client if you don't.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, my Wednesday at 1 class,
Yeah.
this is my latest thing I've been going through is
Oh.
examining the contract. So forms
form by
referenced in
form.
the RP, the residential
my
purchase
gosh.
agreement, it points. Keep going.
67.
67 other forms are pointed to within our. Oops.
It might be.
Our purchase
There it is.
agreement?
Yes.
Our 14-page...
17
17, my bad.
Our 17-page purchase agreement points to 67 other forms. It also points to 20
Websites.
places in the civil code or
Oh.
referencing laws.
Wow.
Yeah, and...
So it's like a legal library unto
Yeah.
itself.
Yes.
And we have to know where those are. And when we go through a contract with a client, we have to go through every clause and let them understand what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy,
No.
but you have to be good at it.
That's what we spend our time learning.
That's right.
Wednesday at 1.
Yeah, staying out of court, that's what we like to do, and
Yeah.
we generally do. I mean, I'm afraid sometimes in my Wednesday 1 classes, some people walk away going, this is too scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like to remind everybody, it's okay. We're covered. We do like to have healthy paranoia.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Don't let it overwhelm you. And
Don't
definitely
let
your
it
classes,
overwhelm you. Yeah,
your
that's
classes
right.
help us
Yeah.
stay prepared for
Yeah.
anything that might come up.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for
Okay.
sharing your story,
There's so much more.
teaching us a thing or two.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
and
Appreciate it.
now we'll hear the news. And now it's time for the news. Today's topic, of course, being getting sued. We heard a lot from Doug today.
Yeah.
And while
crazy.
neither of us have been sued,
Thank goodness.
I like to think it's for a good reason.
Yeah. Me too.
I know. And to start us off, I mean, real estate agents are not attorneys.
No.
That is one of the most important parts. I mean, even to portray to like everyone who wants to work with us. It's like we have clients, we work with contracts, and we're helping people with one of the biggest things they may ever do in their life.
Right.
But
we
we're
cannot give legal advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that we're not attorneys, it's similar to getting a licensed and insured realtor is similar to getting a licensed and insured contractor.
Right.
Them being a realtor in and of itself is, I mean, of course you should do your due diligence, probably interview more than one,
Yeah.
and like learn how they do their business. But just getting one is a good first step to protecting yourself.
That's right.
And because, I mean, even if you, like, no matter what you're selling or what you're buying, there's tons of minutia and laws that differ from state to state about every real estate transaction.
Yes.
I mean, that's why there's a, like, California Association of Realtors. There's a
Yeah.
Realtor Association in every state.
That's right.
Right below the National Association. And they all make every contract that a realtor uses for the most part.
Yep.
Some companies have in-house contracts, but on the high, you'll be using, like, for California, we have the agency disclosure.
Right.
And on the front side, it talks about how real estate agents in California owe, like, certain duties to their clients. And I won't go into, like, the 7 paragraphs of things it has
Yeah.
to say, but it has a lot. And you sign that first page, and then you flip the page over, and it has all of the civil codes in California listed out.
Yeah. It's completely full page 2, and it's tiny writing.
Yes.
That's how many laws there are.
It's like 7-point font,
But, yeah.
17 paragraphs on one little page.
Yeah.
And that's not the one you sign. Like, that's just like, hey, just if you wanted some bedside reading,
Yeah.
here is
You want to read some civil code?
here. And that one's just about what a real estate agent owes you
Yeah.
under California law.
Right.
And beyond that, there's just so many forms that do their best to detail everything about real estate.
That's right. Yeah. And I would go further and say if you're going to get a realtor, you should get one that is a member of the California Association or their state's association
Yep.
and the National Association. And then, of course, there are local associations too.
Yes, exactly.
And all of those memberships are going to come with training and higher levels of
Yeah.
standards, ethics that we have to adhere to. And it just is going to help protect you, the consumer, from getting sued if you are working with
Yep.
a qualified realtor.
Yes, and mistakes happen, but on the high, like things are better with a realtor. And it's also not to say that it's impossible to successfully buy or sell a house on your own.
Right.
But the best chance of you coming out of it cleanly and with what you wanted is to have a realtor on your side.
That's right. Yeah. Now, did you know that on average, real estate agents face an average of, I said average twice, but that's okay, 1 lawsuit every 5 years? I found that interesting.
Really?
Yeah, that was from a website, getnooks.org. I personally am not sure if that is true or not, because Emmett has been doing this 14 years, and he personally has never been sued. And I've never been sued in 11 years. And then just talking to other realtors for this episode,
Yeah.
you know, they were like, I'd come on your podcast, but I've never been sued. And so they didn't have any stories. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, 1 lawsuit every 5 years.
Yeah, it was easier with Doug Love because he's
a manager.
Yeah. So he knows all that's going on. He helps prepare us.
Dozens of agents over the years, yeah.
And that's also the portion of the business he likes. So.
Yeah, he's really good at it. Common types of disputes in lawsuits. Contract issues. Approximately 60% of real estate lawsuits involve contract disputes.
Really? I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. 20% of these lawsuits pertain to zoning violations, and then environmental issues are involved in 8%. I imagine this is all commercial real estate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to take a look at how many of the lawsuits are commercial versus residential.
I know, yeah. And then lawsuits is different from small claims court.
Yes. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Around 65% of real estate lawsuits are resolved through mediation or arbitration, which mediation and arbitration are way cheaper and faster than going through like the court system.
I think I had kind of a preconception that if anything went wrong, it would probably just go to court.
Right.
But it sounds like mediation, arbitration work.
Yeah. So basically, like, when you write an offer to purchase a home in California, the offer has clauses in there already for mediation and arbitration.
Yeah, you agree to go through those processes.
That's right. And then you have to get like, so anybody can be a mediator for real estate purposes. You just have to get like certified.
Oh, okay.
And so if you're interested in being a mediator, just reach out to your town's, your area's local realtor association, and they can guide you on that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and arbitration is basically like a mini court case session with like a retired judge.
Yeah, I think for our contract specifically, it's retired real estate attorney or judge.
Nice.
I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is.
And then let's see here. A significant majority of real estate lawsuits are filed in state courts, rather than federal courts or county.
That seems to make sense.
Yeah. And then approximately 40% of these lawsuits involve multiple defendants, indicating the complexity of many real estate disputes.
And those two make me wonder, the 25% that goes to federal court.
Or county.
Oh, so it could go up or down.
And again, this is not counting small claims court.
Yeah.
And of course, the most famous recent real estate lawsuit that settled last year was like $400 million plus settlement with the National Association of Realtors.
It changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
We've even spoken about some of the changes here, but that was a lawsuit.
Yeah, and that whole, how that came to be, I was doing some more reading about it as I was preparing for this news segment today, and if you go back like and find articles from early 2024,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, these lawsuits have been going on for a long time, but it was like lawyers were hearing about it and jumping on and just adding more and more and more clients to this lawsuit
I heard
towards
about that.
NAR.
Yeah,
And
I had just
it was
become a
crazy.
realtor,
Yeah.
and I was hearing, like, through the grapevine about people saying, like, a lawyer will just go ask people who bought or sold real estate and jump in.
That's right.
Yep.
And so, you know, for those realtors out there that are listening, if you are a member of the National Association of Realtors, then one of the things that when they came to that settlement agreement was that, okay, NAR said, well, any of our realtors that are NAR members, they cannot be sued for the same reason again.
Oh, double jeopardy.
That's
Yeah.
right. So we are protected as long as you're not like out and out
I mean, doing something wrong.
colluding, Sherman Act
Yes.
violation, antitrust. Yeah.
Because that was the
Right.
accusation.
Definitely.
It was that we, like, the
Like,
brokerages
as an
are
industry.
colluding. As an industry,
Yes.
we are colluding
Right.
about commissions, right? That was
Yeah.
the...
So we won't talk anymore about that because that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we could have a
Wax.
whole episode about
Yeah.
last year's lawsuit.
We should.
I know, but
Yeah.
in the meantime, thank you for tuning in to episode 9, Getting Sued. And we'll see you next time.